رمضان تجلى وابتسم طوبى للعبد إذا اغتنم رمضان تجلى وابتسم طوبى للعبد.
Are we nearly live for the sisters as well? Okay. And okay, I'll try and keep up to speed with the comments from the sisters. Okay, last night, as you have had a little bit of a glimpse of what we are about to embark on now in terms of the journey through the Quran, we welcome our honorable guest, Dr. Musharraf Hussain, again. They gave us an enlightening discourse, even though it was a very brief one yesterday, but today is a more detailed exposition of one particular surah. And as we mentioned yesterday, this is not something we're going to be reading just for entertainment purposes. Tika, Dr. Musharraf? It's not for entertainment, it's for learning purposes. How we're going to draw the lessons out of this surah and understand it. Many people have studied, I wouldn't say studied, but read or heard about this surah, and we just focus on the wrong things. And inshallah, without further ado, our honorable guest is going to enlighten us, open our minds to a whole new paradigm shift. And again, they need no introduction. They're an educationalist, they are a philanthropist, someone working in the charity field, someone who's been honored by the Queen in terms of being awarded an OBE for their services to the community. But the thing that which we will remember them for is their service to delivering the translation of the Quran to the masses. And this again, no doubt, is a noble effort, a noble mission. And we should all try and see how we can all partake in this blessed mission. And they've made it simple, the translation. For those of you who have not seen this particular translation, I'm sure there'll be copies available at the end to be able to buy if they wanted to, inshallah. So take that away back home, inshallah. So without further ado, time is critical. I have great honor and pleasure in handing over to Dr. Musharraf to deliver this next session. Jazakallah.
Thank you. Jazakallah. The copy buying, I bought a copy about 4 or 5 years ago, and he had made a lot of different, and I read the translation every day.
MashaAllah.
From there you can text your friends or family what you read. There's somebody there, and it's beautiful. All I'm saying, if you haven't got it, one of the things you need to do, take one, and thank the author for doing it.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. And thank you for those warm words, Haji Zafar, isn't it? Yes, thank you for those beautiful warm words. Yes, entertainment. No problem with entertainment. We've got to make it halal. So, entertainment, education, inspiration, enlightenment, inshallah al-aziz. That's what it is. And we have our own standards for all of those things, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين صدق الله العظيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد معدن الجود والكرم وآله وبارك وسلم وصل عليه السلام عليكم. My dear brothers and sisters online, and our wonderful young, I was going to say children, but alhamdulillah, even adults, for parents are children, yeah. No? So May Allah bless you all, and we want to thank Sheikh Ahmed Dabbagh for giving us this amazing opportunity where we can sit together, learn, worship, and to actually develop ourselves, grow spiritually, morally, and intellectually. So Jazakallah to him, and we pray for his health and for his longevity and for the continuation of his wonderful work. My aim today is very simple. I want to convince you, and I want you to leave this session with this conviction that this book is absolutely miraculous. And of course you all believe that. Have we already believed that? No. And I can prove it. And I am convinced. I have ilmul yaqeen of it. I know it. But what is your experience of it? Have you got ainul yaqeen? Do you really, can you prove it objectively? And to yourself first, never mind anyone else, to yourself. So yes, we have ilmul yaqeen, and that is where you begin to get doubts. Ilmul yaqeen, until it becomes ainul yaqeen, always remains open to doubts, This is why, in science lessons, do you remember when you went to a science lesson? The teacher would tell the theory, and then to really convince you that, you shouldn't touch sodium with your fingers. He used to, do the real experiments, and then you would see, my God, yes, So until you actually experience things, the true conviction isn't there, true certainty isn't there, there's doubts are natural, okay? And then, of course, you reach the stage of haqqul yaqeen, where it goes beyond experience. You are now using it. You are benefiting from it. It's something that you are continuously experiencing now, okay? That is your... this is, I hope, one of the aims today, to give you this sense, what an amazing book. This could not have been written by Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Arabs had no sense and way of writing something like this. In fact, no one in antiquity, in the 7th, 8th century, could do anything like this. So, not only for the style, not just the style of it and its narrative, but something more important for us, which is how it actually teaches moral values, spiritual ideals, and social rights in an amazing way, okay? The way it does it is something extraordinary, and I hope, inshallah, you get that sense, and you say, yeah, this is just amazing, And, when anybody wanted to do hifz, particularly teenagers, the teachers would say, well, learn Surah Yusuf first. I don't know anybody had that experience or not. We were often told, and I've seen it in books as well, actually, that you start off with Surah Yusuf. And I've been reflecting on why they would say, learn Surah Yusuf first. And now it's become clear that this is a surah that really clarifies the moral values and the spiritual ideals in a very practical way, not theoretical, not a dictionary definitions of patience or of forgiveness or of modesty, but real life examples, by giving real life examples. Okay, well, it's no good talking about it. When you've got a beautiful story, you should read a story, shouldn't you? So that is what we're going to do. I hope to spend some time with you just to give you the taste of what this is really, what this story entails and what makes it so special. So I spent nearly 2 years actually doing research and putting this together and rewriting it and reordering it and all sorts of over the 2 years. And so what we have here is, first, inshallah, we're going to go through the whole story, okay? So you read the story from the Quran, that's it. Just read it, and you will find an amazing narrative, okay? And next is a commentary and insights. In the translation of chapter 1, I give you the translation, but I also have copious footnotes, which are useful. I hope you'll read those as well. But in the next chapter, I do a more deeper commentary, and insights. I'm trying to actually ibar, okay? Ibra is what I'm trying to get. Insights, deeper messages that come from it. Perhaps, I don't know, a dozen or so. Then I look at key Arabic words and phrases. This is just to emphasize that, we do need to know Arabic, and we should, we need to learn it to a level where we can differentiate between the fail, fa'il, and maf'ul, and have some sense of the language. In fact, even learn to write with hands. Writing with the hand is very important. Even now, you might have the schools are thinking of scrapping writing. No. And books, no, they're not. They are still, Ofsted emphasizes how important it is for children to write, so clearly as well. So because there's something very special with when you write and the connection with the brain and how it develops. So it's really important to write. So do become people of qalam as well, inshallah. Then there is life hacks from the story. Life hacks are sort of tips, how you do ordinary things, but do them the way Surah Yusuf does it, and you will have amazing kind of advice. And I distinguish that from insights in some way, and you will see why, I think. Again, those are things you should be saying, what's the difference between the insights and the life hacks? Okay. Then there's a symbolic reading. This is fascinating, So what does Yusuf represent? Okay. Some say, well, Yusuf is, in this surah, Yusuf for humans is representing the life journey, the whole of life journey, okay? And the life journey has its peaks and it has its troughs. It's like a cosine curve, going up and down, periodically, and we all experience that. What are the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam? What do they represent? So some say, they are representation of Nafsul Ammara, okay? Others say differently, but that's, what is the wolf mentioned in the Surah Yusuf? Some say, well, wolf here represents dunya, okay? So there's quite interesting kind of understandings and symbolic readings. So that's the symbolic reading. And then I'll do, my favorite one is the shirt, okay, that when it occurs 3 times. Then there's a teacher's guide. For almost each page, I've got some questions for you to reflect on. Then I present my own sort of understanding of how, if I want to do a deeper sort of investigation, a deeper understanding, what format will I use? What is the stages that I need to go through to get a deeper understanding? It's just like, what are the different, what's the formula for deeper research, okay? You get that function on ChatGPT as well, deeper research. But what is the different stages you need to go through in order to attain and get that deeper research? So I explain some of the key rules that I use for my deeper understanding of the Quran. Then the structure of the Quranic surahs. This is fascinating, and it's something I hope, again, I can convince you. And every surah has a particular structure. It's most likely a ring structure, and inshallah we'll investigate some of those, that ring structure. And then there is an overview of tafsir methodologies. Again, I'm basing it on modern hermeneutics as well as, of course, usul tafsir. How should we do a tafsir of Quran, or of its surahs? Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So let's begin by reading the story itself. So I begin with Allah's name, the kind, the caring. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is my simple translation of Rahman and Rahim. The kind, the caring. And the most people would use the beneficent, the ever merciful, the ever gracious. And all of those words are okay, but they're not quite actually on mark, because Rahma and Raham is actually kindness. Kindness is a very powerful word in English. I have got a whole book on kindness in English, just about what is kindness, where does this word come from, what does it entail, what are the aspects of kindness. It's an amazing word, and merciful is inappropriate completely. It's a very Christian, it has Christian connotations. What are those Christian? Mercy actually is from French, which has the idea of forgiveness. But Rahm does have none of that. It's when somebody committed something, somebody was rebellious, and so the king is about to chop his head off, but he repents, he asks for mercy. He asks for? Yes, he does that. Whereas Rahm is totally different. Rahm is when the giver sees your need, you are in a difficulty, empathizes, sympathizes, and then relieves you of your difficulty. That is Rahim Jayan, and that is the Rahim that is Quran talking about here. And then Ar-Rahim is even the more higher level of kindness. What's good for that? Care. We have the caring profession, we care. Parents are carers, okay? That's a continuous sort of. So even that doesn't mean, these are complete renditions of these amazing words, Rahman and Rahim, okay? But I think they're much easier. It gives you much better sense. People just beneficent. The first, they don't pronounce it properly, and second, they have no sense of, what it is, really. Gracious, merciful, entirely merciful. I've certainly found them really enigmatic, Jen, really. And that isn't what translation should be. Translation should be something I get immediately. Sariul Faham, okay? Plain, that's what plain is. I begin with Allah's name, the kind, the caring. I don't have to add most as well. Modern English abhors these kind of adjectives, seriously. We Pakistanis love to put them because we don't know good English. Sorry, I mean, don't worry. Yes, we certainly don't, Why do you add most kind, Yadi? When you put the, what is the? He's the only of his kind, the kind. There's no one else who is Ar-Rahman with the Alif Lam, the kind. Okay, so there's no need to put the most kind, There's no need for that. Anyway, this is something which in my translation I've avoided. You won't find many indeeds and certainly, again, bad English. Verily, surely, bad English. Sometimes, yes, but not every verse, not indeed, surely, certainly. You don't need it. All you need to do is to emphasize in some other way, the way you put the verbs or the objects or the subjects in position. You can bring out that emphasis, okay? So don't worry about, so I begin. And I've added I begin because all Mufassirin say that, Abda'u o ashra'u, I begin. And that's what it is. And, when you're reading the Quran, you should get a sense, it's making sense. It's real, okay? I begin with Allah's name, the kind, the caring. Alif Lam Ra, the most beautiful story. These are the verses of a clear book. We revealed it as an Arabic Quran, so you may understand. We will tell you the most beautiful story by revealing to you this Quran, a story of which you were unaware before. The Arabs, the Meccans had no clue of this story. And one of the reasons for the revelation is that the Meccans went to the Jews to ask, how can we trick, trap, and embarrass the Prophet by asking him something which he can't answer? Okay, Surah Yusuf, or name of Yusuf was not something the Arabs knew or wanted to know, so it wasn't. So I'll find out. The Jews said, find out how did the Israelites end up in Egypt. Find out from him how. If he can tell that, he will be okay. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the whole Surah Yusuf there and then. Okay, this is amazing, isn't it? How many seconds would that have been? Sometimes Jibreel, we know, used to read to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then used to copy and imitate. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be very quick about it, so that it is. And the Quran said to him, this is very early on, actually, in Surah Al-Muddassir, very early on, third or fourth surah. Then Allah said, no, la tataharrak lisanik. Don't move your tongue so fast. You don't need to even say it. We've etched it in your brain already. But when it says that the whole surah came instantly, how many minutes would that have taken to download? The surah, if you to read it in Arabic, it would take you about 15 minutes if you read it slowly. Do you think that's how long it would have taken? 15 seconds? 15 milliseconds? Microseconds? Nanoseconds? Picoseconds? 10 to minus 12 seconds? Instant. There's no timing. You can't time it. Yeah. And how Allah would have done that, and it's now etched in the memory of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the other interesting point, Qur'anan Arabiyya. Qur'anan Arabiyyan. This is the Arabic Quran. And then the Quran, of course, is in Arabic. This is not Quran Jan. The translation is not the Quran Jan. The Quran is really, this is rendition, this is why when Pickthall presented his translation in 1930 to the Shaykh al-Azhar and said, here is the translation of the Quran. And the Shaykh al-Azhar said, no, it's not translation of the Quran. This is Tarjumatul Ma'ani. This is the translation of the meanings of the Quran, the message, the interpretation that the ulama have done in 1400 years. You now have interpreted that into your language, into your mother tongue. So that's really important to understand the Quran, the real Quran, the words of the Quran. And that is why for your ta'weez, for your amulets and for your blessings, we have to do it in Arabic. We have to read it in Arabic. That is the Quran. Just look at this. This is a 2-line introduction to this beautiful surah. And then young Yusuf dreams. Consider when Yusuf said to his father, my dear father, I saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon all prostrating before me. Yaqub said, my dear son, don't tell your brothers your dream. They will hatch a plot against you. Satan is a sworn enemy of humanity. This dream shows your Lord has chosen you, will teach you interpretation of dreams and fulfill his favors on you and the family of Yaqub, just as he fulfilled it on your forefathers Ibrahim, Ishaq. Your Lord is knowing, wise. So this is the episode number 1, all right? Yusuf having a dream, then presenting it to his father. So this is just one episode. I hope you can see how succinct that is. And it's very brief, but it brings out the essence, okay? And that is what is so difficult in short stories, for the writer of a short story to condense so much into, just in a paragraph, whereas a novel writer can spread it over 20 pages, okay? And so short stories require concise and precise, methodology, and it is very difficult. It's not easy. It's really very difficult. Okay, the next episode is the brothers hatch a nasty plot. In the story of Yusuf and his brothers, there are signs for the questioners. Okay, signs for the questioners. The questioners meaning those Meccans and also the Jews who had posed that question. When the stepbrothers whinged, our father loves Yusuf and his brother more than us, even though we are a large group. Our father is obviously mistaken. Kill Yusuf, said one, or get rid of him in a far-off land, so you will have your father's full attention. Afterwards, you can be good. Another spoke out, don't kill Yusuf. If you are determined to do something, throw him into the bottom of a well. Perhaps a passing caravan will pick him up. So they said, our father, why don't you trust us with Yusuf, though we are sincere about him? Tomorrow send him with us, so he may enjoy himself and play, and we'll take good care of him. Yaqub said, the mere thought of you taking him worries me, and I am afraid that a wolf might snatch and eat him whilst you are not paying attention to him. They said, how could a wolf eat him when we are a large group? Then we would be really losers. Okay? That's actually two episodes merged into one, the brothers hatching this nasty plot. And of course, this surah was revealed around 10th, 11th year of the Prophet's Nubuwwah, okay, towards the end when the tension was very high and the Meccans were already planning to either kill or exile or to imprison Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I hope you can see another connection between the revelation of this surah and the Meccans as well. Yeah, no? Okay, here, well, it's not very different from how the Israelites ended up in Egypt. Okay, how Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will end up in Madinatul Munawwara. All right. I just want you to get the taste of this surah. You know, really, it's important. So next episode is Yusuf accompanies his brothers. So having taken him, they agreed to leave him at the bottom of a well. We inspired him. Awha, you know, which is sending the wahy, the revelation to Yusuf alayhi salam. You know, a prophet is born prophet. Okay, and when he declares his nabuwwah at a different age, okay, but he's a prophet all the time. Baby prophet, he's prophet when he's a baby, he's a prophet when he's a teenager. He's ma'soom all the time, and he remains ma'soom. Okay. One day you will tell them about this conspiracy of theirs at a time when they least expect it. So this was Allah giving confidence to him, assuring him, don't worry, Yusuf, we are with you. That late evening, they came to their father crying, saying, our father, we went off to race one another, leaving Yusuf with our belongings, and the wolf came and ate him. Though we're telling the truth, you won't believe us. Then they brought his shirt stained with false blood. Yaqub said, you've made all this up. I will bear patiently. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. I will bear patiently. Patience is a beautiful quality. Allah is my only supporter against what you are describing. I hope again you see this episode. It's really almost two episodes again merged into one. And how concise it is. I want you to note also the dialogues, you know, the short, very pithy dialogues, to be honest, really very pithy dialogues. You know. There's something else in all of them, but we'll comment on that later on. The lessons, the ibra, the moral values, you know, that we learn from them. Yusuf sold as a slave. Along came a caravan, sending their water bearer on ahead. As he lowered his bucket, he shouted, great news! There's a boy here. Then they hid him with their goods, but Allah was aware of what they did. They sold him for a paltry price. Who sold him for a paltry price? I should have really put here. The brothers sold him for a paltry price. So they were watching all the time. Who's going to take him? So when this caravan came and they took him, they came up and said, hey, this is our runaway slave. So give us some more money. So they're taking advantage of that as well. So they sold him for a paltry price, a few silver coins, because they were uninterested in him. This is it. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِد. Zahid. You know, Urdu Jahan, Zahid. What is a Zahid? Somebody who's not interested or detached from the world. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. They were disinterested with Yusuf. They were not interested in him. Are you with that? So this is where the idea of zuhud comes. You know? You're not interested, okay, with the dunya. They were not interested with him. You know? So the Egyptian who bought him said to his wife, look after him well. He could be useful to us, or else we could adopt him as son. That's how we settled Yusuf in the land of Egypt and taught him to interpret dreams. Allah had complete control of Yusuf's situation, but most people are ignorant. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. I want you to just reflect on that. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. And Allah was in complete control of Yusuf's affairs. Okay. Is he not? That's a very powerful thing, Jan. Remember, Yusuf was languishing. Well, he's being beaten up. That's what they did. The brothers beat him up first, then threw him in the well. All right, and then, he's sold as a slave. Okay, this prince is sold as a slave. Just imagine what kind of humiliation that is. But Allah says to him, "Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi." Would Yusuf know that Allah is ghalib over his amr? Of course. Yes, he's a prophet. He also understood this. But Allah is telling us something. And this ghalib, has anybody seen this al-ghalib? A tile with al-ghalib on it. Has anybody seen this? Who's been to Al-Hamra? You've been there. Shasab, it's one room, isn't it? And that's really interesting. In Al-Hamra, this palace of the Muslim rulers, so there's a room with tiles al-ghalib, very beautifully calligraphy. Where is the tile? On the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling. Some very clever architect or a designer or an artist wanted to drill this into the king. Hey, who are you? Al-Ghalib. You are maghloob. Are you with it? You are? You should consider yourself maghloob. Eh? The Ghalib is all around you. Do you get that? That's a very powerful metaphor, to be honest. On the floor as well, on the wall, wherever the king looks, Al-Ghalib. Who are you? You thought you were the ruler. You are the master. You control everything. What do you control? The real control is who? It's a very powerful metaphor. Yeah. And I've been trying to get pictures of that. If you can get a picture of that room, that'd be fantastic. Really, it's amazing. And that also shows you, how some of our Muslim artists understood Allah's book and the scholars understood it. This is concretizing the word ghalib, eh? Because, we are weak, we abstract things like ghalib, Allah is dominant, might seem abstract, but no, you shouldn't. And this is what this surah is also doing. It's not actually translating the meanings of this, it actually presents it in real life. He is ghalib. Yes, Yusuf, don't worry, everything is in control. Eh? We have control of these things. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. Okay? But people we are. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. But we are what? Ghafilin. We don't. Sadly, we are unaware of this reality. And I think that's what we need to learn. If this is one amazing spiritual lesson from this surah. I think the most powerful one. You should think always. When you're down, the lowest of low you could be in your sense of confidence, you should remember, Allahu Ghalib. Allah is Ghalib. Not so-and-so who's put me down here, okay? Or so-and-so, or because of this. No, Allah is still Ghalib, okay? And He can bring me up. And when you are there, still always imagine and believe He is Al-Ghalib. Al-Ghalib. So this is
ilmul yaqeen.
Yes.
Why aren't we ainul yaqeen?
Well, this is why here the Quran is presenting it as ainul yaqeen and haqqul yaqeen. Yusuf is seeing it, and this is what this artist was doing to the king. He said to him, hey, I know you know Al-Ghalib. Okay, your father gave you good teachers who told you what Al-Ghalib is, but this is the reality of it. Okay, you live in that space where you are maghloob and Allah is ghalib. Okay, so that is now experiencing the Allah as a ghalib. Okay, and we should be always in that state. I want you to read this next episode. The captain's wife seduces and tempts Yusuf. The lady in whose house he was living tried to seduce him, bolting the doors and saying, "Come here, Ma'azallah." He said, "My master has given me a good home, and in any case, wrongdoers never succeed." She lusted for him, and he would have desired her too if he hadn't seen overwhelming proof from his Lord. That was how he deflected the evil and indecency away from him. He was one of our devoted servants. They raced to the door, and she tore his shirt from behind. There at the door, they bumped into her husband. What should be the punishment for someone who wishes to harm your family? She cried. Except imprisonment or torture. Yusuf cried out, she is the one who tried to seduce me. Then a member of her household recommended, if his shirt is torn from the front, then she's telling the truth and he's lying. But if his shirt is torn from behind, then she's lying and he's telling the truth. When her husband saw the shirt was torn from behind, he said, this cunning scheme of yours, this kaida kunna, okay, is a big trick. Yusuf, just overlook it, and forgive her, okay? And told his wife, seek forgiveness for your sin. You are wrong. You know, this is a very difficult passage and one which modern novelists, you know, when they do these sort of scenes, they do it in the most obscene and most explicit form, sadly, and they sink to the lowest of the low. Okay, but look at how the Quran presents this. It's just amazing, and in it, I hope you can see very clearly and understand what modesty is. Haya, haya. Say that, everybody. Haya, and from haya comes hayat. Haya, what comes from it? Life. Okay, haya is what gives true moral and spiritual life, really. And one thing that this society is now bereft of is haya, sadly. The families are bereft of this haya and therefore of true hayat as well, the spiritual, the moral life, sadly. So haya is such an important, but here look at the way it's presented. So you'll be wondering, you know, she lusted and he would have done the same, but you know, but the Quran goes on to say, but Allah deflected it. Okay, so had he not seen the evidence, had he not seen the proof, burhan, laula ra'a burhan rabbi, had he not seen the proof of his Lord, Yusuf too would have lusted. I use the word desired rather than lust for him and lusted for Zulaikha, but he would have desired. Now, that's fine. That's not against their isma. Why? You know, I'm sure, you know, when I was walking up your stairs, there's iron brew there. There was guava, exotic mango juice, and some others. Come on. Who wasn't saying, oh, I wish I could have that? Eh? Isn't that right? But you actually don't do it, do you? You don't actually drink it, but you do say, well, that's very delicious. Eh? There's something in your head saying, oh, that would be delicious. Eh? Isn't that right? Of course, yeah. No? And that's what, you know, his desire was. And that is what the first glances, which Rasulullah said is, you know, it's you're forgiven. Okay? That isn't tabi'i, that's a natural. Okay? Every prophet is a natural human being. Okay, so he has naturally those urges, but what he is master of them. That's the difference. He's master of his urges, of his appetites, or what the psychologists call human hungers. Okay, he's master of them, you know? And he displays that here. So that is what it means. But then it says, so the Mufassirin have a real time here, mashallah. They talk about what was this burhan he saw. You know, some say Jibril came and said, you know, and how would Jibril come? And you know, we live in a very technological age. You know, Jibril could be standing there at the door very clearly, okay, in his real form, and saying to him, no, okay. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very familiar with him, okay. That could be one. Others say, no, it was Yaqub alayhi salam who appeared to him, you know, forbidding him. Okay, but my own hunch is that he already had that power, you know, moral power. So his khulq of modesty, of haya, is what was the burhan for him. That was the evidence for him. Okay, he didn't need an external evidence. In my own hunch is because what we see with Yusuf, his own haya, his own, and that is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. When haya leaves you, then you can do anything, meaning you will fall into every kind of evil. Isn't that true? You know, and this is what sadly modern society has a agenda, and education system sadly, and psychologists in it, and policymakers in it. It depends what which political side they come from, are trying to do, you know, to take away haya. They plan it. Social engineering. Social engineering? Do you believe in social engineering? Well, we believe in engineering, so they can bring HS2, and they can make these amazing bridges, and they can build these skyscrapers. We believe in that, don't we? Well, I'll tell you, social engineering is as powerful, effective, and goes on. If you want to be, if you don't believe me, read Professor Tooley's book, Miseducation of Women. Professor Tooley was for more than 25 years professor of education and education policy in Newcastle University. And he was assigned the task by the different departments for education to, task was very simple. We want 50% of the university undergraduates to be women, girls, because there was such a small, in the 70s and early 80s, there was a small number who were going into science or technology and engineering, STEM sciences. Very few were going into it. We want half. That was the, and we want them in the workforce as well. Half. Go on, make a scheme. We give you millions, and they were given millions. They worked on this policy. How do we get girls? How do we get women into education? It was a very complicated, you know, ideas, policy, procedures, and they did. And lo and behold, you know, by the turn of the millennium, they achieved that. And, you know, they were having, and in 2005, he wrote this book, Miseducation of Women, in which he had now seen what they had unleashed and all the harms of taking away. See, they did things like this. They had to show that motherhood is a third-class profession. So why do you want to stay home? What do you want to be a mother for, eh? That is one of the things they had to show. Okay, look, it's a third class. You don't have to. Obviously, it wasn't done, you know, openly and like in that crude way. It was done very subtly, you know? And so he regretted all that, and he wrote his book called Miseducation of Women, published in 2005. Of what do you think? How did the media and the people reacted? Oh, he was put down. I remember listening to his interview on Woman's Hour on BBC, Radio 4. Oh, and he was beaten to pieces there. And he wasn't given much, you know, when they don't want to see things like this, not much airtime or newspaper coverage. But there were some people who were. But in that book, he talks about what he was doing and his fellow educationalists were doing. We were scheming, how do we take away this difference between man and woman, male and female? How can we do this effectively? And in doing that, you know, he realized what ridiculous, unnatural thing we have unleashed now, and we are now seeing, you know, all the fruits of that. Okay, and the biggest fruit that whole of Europe is tasting is decline in their population. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off the track there. Now I get distracted, but I wanted to make this point about haya, modesty, and this is one of the most critical moral values, you know. So here in this passage, the Quran is not defining what haya is, okay, that you guard your privacy, you know. It's actually illustrating it to you. Okay, look how Yusuf did it, yeah, no? Okay, how he did, and his words, you know, are so amazing. I really do want, you know, anybody who does language should be able to look at this and say, goodness me, so succinct and so much in there. And this is what some of our early mufassirin did, you know, who were masters of language and who could express things far better than myself. You know, all would write pages and pages, and people like Fakhruddin Razi had a heyday on, you know, with passages like this. You know, they could talk about so much. Brother, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to ask about desire. I'm just trying to conceptualize or understand properly
you put me in a difficult situation now. Yes, I say that he desired. The Quran says that, yeah. Actually, the Quran says and I'm now trying to understand how would he desire without. And I gave you this example of walking past those exotic drinks and food and those delicious smells that you see, and yet you don't actually eat them, you don't drink them, but you still have that desire, don't you? You do have a desire, there is a desire for it, but you don't actualize it. So that's okay, that's forgiven, and even a prophet, and we say he's a natural human being, all right? That's the important point. He's natural, a human being, Jen, okay? I don't know whether that answers your question, but I think it's plain, to be honest. There's nothing secret. There is a surface reading we can do of this, which is so clear and plain, and that's the job of a translator to provide. And then there's a deeper reading, which I hope, in the footnotes and commentary, we can then explore, and we can have a real bite of it, and try to understand it in depth. That's the role of a commentator and mufassir, okay? So, but this is, all of this is really amazing. For example, when Zulaykha sees her husband, she shouts first. And this is always the mujrim, the person who is guilty, always says, I am not guilty first, okay? But can you see something else? Yusuf doesn't stay quiet, does he? At that moment, if he stayed quiet, it would have sent doubts, wouldn't it? Can you see that? These are some amazing things, and which show you, well, if you don't believe in God, at least this writer was very, very intelligent, very clever, very clever, okay? It brings out some amazing things here, no? Anyway, I hope you can see that these episodes are very rich, very concise. And can you imagine that first time writing prose, a culture that does not have this skill or talent or this practice of writing in prose and writing stories, they could have done it like that? Impossible. English has taken thousands of years to develop. And now when you read, some of their best writers, it's taken so long. Shakespeare was good at his own time. That was a different language anyway. It wasn't modern English. So languages take time to develop. How could anybody have written this in that kind of Arabic? Anyway, I'm not going to read any more of this story. The idea was, can you see the richness of it? Will you now be tempted to read this? All of it? In one go as well? And see? Our aim here is really to take a bird's eye view of the story. Okay? So I just want to move on to the next chapter, which is commentary and insights. And I want to just share a few excerpts from it, So what was our aim of today's seminar? I want you to read, learn, enjoy this marvelous story. Enjoyment, what are you enjoying? You're enjoying Allah's words. And that in itself is very spiritual, to be honest. Okay? So I would, suggest you really read this in English. Some of us are scared of reading Quran in English. They say this might be some kind of a sin. It used to be a sin to read English. Do you know that? That was a fatwa. Anybody who learns English is committing major sin. That was a fatwa in the 19th century, because the English were the enemies of the Muslims in India. So the fatwa was, you do not learn English, all right? You don't. And it was only Sir Sayyid towards the end of who made this amazing campaign, saying, no, we must learn English, otherwise we will be left behind. And he's the founder of the Aligarh University, towards the end of 19th century. So, yes, so people have still this notion, this is others' language, so why should we read? No, astaghfirullah. No, this is our language now, please. It's our mother tongue now. It is our language and it is Allah's language. It's a very powerful language. It's a vehicle for understanding. So let's use it, yeah. Okay? So and will you get sawab as much as you would if you read Arabic Quran? Oh, let me dare to say, if you read it with your heart, your mind, and with all your intellectual powers, you would get hundreds times more sawab than you would if you read the words. Seriously. Because you are reflecting, you are pondering, you are thinking, you are using your mind. And when you use your mind, what happens? The 1 trillion cells, all of them take part in it. Eh? Are you with it? You are engrossed in it. And that is what it should be. That is what worship is, okay? Rather than just reading it verbatim and without understanding at all what you are reading. Are you with it? Okay, so do please, so don't, this is another battle I'm having to fight with people. Okay, reading English is good. Reading Quran in English is even better. And you get sawab because you are learning, you are developing, and you are pondering, you are thinking. Afala ta'qilun, afala tatafakkarun. The Quran's aim is actually to make us people who reason, people who understand, people who reflect. Okay. Anyway, so do please, you will get sawab, all right? And many, many times more, okay? Okay, next is, I just here wrote Surah Yusuf, the 12th chapter of the majestic Quran comprising of 111 verses was revealed in Makkah, reflecting the intense trials faced by the Prophet ﷺ during his final years there. As tensions escalated, the Quraysh debated whether to kill, exile, or imprison him. So this surah in many ways is doing what? It's already predicting the Prophet's trajectory, okay? This is what's going to happen, all right? But at the same time, it's answering the Jews' question as well, Jana. So, however, Allah's guidance prevailed. The entire story of Prophet Yusuf was revealed spontaneously, allowing the Prophet ﷺ to recite it immediately. Amazing, eh? In picoseconds, it's there, and Rasulullah ﷺ is reciting it, eh? That's amazing, isn't it, eh? But of course, we hear our Hufaz doing it, reciting it, like that. This revelation, but they took hundreds of hours to perhaps memorize it. Okay. This revelation not only countered the plot of the Quraysh, but also served as a divine admonition mirrored in the story of Yusuf and his brothers. Okay, it was as if to say, just as Yusuf's brothers plotted against him and failed, so too would the Quraysh fail in their plots against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, the way it opens is قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا. It opens with a big bang there, no? Yusuf's dream of 11 stars, the moon and the sun bowing to him. Can you see that's a really big way of opening a story? And it begins with the vision. The dream isn't just a dream, Jen, that we have normal, okay? This is actually about vision. This surah is really about, Al-Mufassirin say, it's the tafsir of لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Allah makes this claim in Surah At-Tin. We made humans in the most beautiful form, in the most beautiful shape, in the most, well, not just the physique, but the inner being. Sadly, ours is a society that is superficial. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. We see the outward. We know the zahir. And in fact, the psychologists have done this research that those who are more beautiful actually earn, I don't know, it's $250,000 more than those who are less beautiful than them. Can you see that? They've actually done work on that. And of course we know that, Humans are attracted by beautiful people, so they get more attention. Same with vote winners, who are the vote winners as well, all right? So we are very superficial, outward-looking society, okay? Have you ever seen any bold prime ministers of UK? Sorry, I'm not. It is so ridiculous. They really do. This is how society, modern society, how it just looks at the physical, okay? Rarely does it go beyond that. And, we are here taught, okay, look, we've got to look beyond the zahir, okay? And this is the zahiri we live in. And we are colored with that big brush because, we grow up in that. We are breathing that superficial kind of lifestyle, and we live that. And of course, we are now also tasting its consequences as well. Yeah. Yusuf's journey of integrity and influence. To save her face, Zulaikha gets Yusuf locked up in jail. Here he is involved in teaching and preaching to the inmates. This is really fascinating. Yusuf goes into prison, and the first thing the Quran tells us is he's preaching. Okay? I'm sure there are many people here, mashallah, who do the same, are always looking for opportunities. I certainly am, wherever I go, wherever, non-Muslim, whoever it is, if I'm sitting with them in the train or in the plane or anywhere, I'd love to open a discussion, and share my faith with them. Seriously. No? Come on, I'm sure there is. Aji Iqbal is one of them. I don't have to ask him. He certainly is one of those who would take any opportunity to tell them, hey, read the Quran. This is what I believe. and this is what you should do. And of course, in a gentle way, a beautiful way. So Yusuf, and of course, this is a sign of a da'i and a true believer, that what I have is amazing. What I have is so beautiful, so delicious, and so meaningful, and so transformative that I've got to share it with others. And this is obviously, again, a sign of kindness. Because what you're seeing is, what is kindness? The kindness in the Quran is described as having two parts to it. First is that لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah says, we sent a noble prophet to you who is hurt, who feels anxious when you get injured or when you suffer. The Prophet gets hurt. The Prophet gets hurt. Subhanallah. Do you see that? The Prophet gets hurt when you suffer. Allahu Akbar. So that's the first. And then, Harisun alaykum. He wants the best for you. He's desirous of best for you. Harisun. Ra'ufur Rahim. Very compassionate, very caring. And then he relieves you of it. That's the second stage. So, to be kind, it's no good saying, oh, I really feel sorry for you, Dr. Basil can't do this. When he sees a patient who's suffering there and say, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, You can't say that, do you? You don't say that. You say, oh, I've got to do something. That would be his kindness. That's true, isn't it? Just saying, oh, I really feel sorry for you, poor guy. It's not good enough. Marwan?
The word Aziz, you mentioned it there, it's mentioned in the story.
Yes.
I've always struggled for a translation and a way to explain Aziz. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Oh, good. Well, Al-Aziz is used in Surah Yusuf, we know, is the title of this powerful guy, okay, who Bible says was Potiphar. That's the word it uses for him, Potiphar. And also in another place in the Bible it says he was the captain of the king's guards. So the guards that would do the security and safety of the king, he was the captain, he was the guard. So Al-Aziz in Surah Yusuf certainly means, the powerful captain, the powerful guy who is responsible for that. Al-Aziz there. Of course, we know Al-Aziz in Quran is used for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty. Okay, that's where the difference is, of course, worlds of difference, And here in Surah Tawbah, at the end, when Allah says, Azizun alayhim ma anittum, it's hard for him. Aziz there meaning pain and yes. So, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So what is, Yusuf's journey of integrity and influence. So we're talking about to save her. She locked him up, and I was saying about Dai. Sorry, Jan. Yeah, Dai, Jan. We should be this natural Dai. Just imagine, if we all had that. Today, one of the sad thing is, I went to my travel agent the other day, and he's got 7, mashallah, young men busy on their laptops, working. And I thought, wow. Then I went to my masjid and just the Imam Sahib, okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? The world is working, the dunya is working, eh? But for deen, we have no workers. No workers for deen. When you have no workers, do you get work done? So today, seriously, what is happening with Islam is we have too many volunteers, or we don't have those either. Sorry, we don't have too many volunteers. We have some volunteers. Okay? We have few volunteers. Let's be accurate about few volunteers. How many workers do we have? Well, there are crazy people like me. There's Sheikh Dabbagh. We can count them on fingers, can't we? Who are there for 24/7, working for the deen of Allah. And believe we are workers. I regard myself as a worker. I said this to a very top Muslim scholar once. Hey, what are you talking about, Islamic workers? We have scholars. I said, well, yes, we have scholars, but really, we should be workers of deen. And we need workers in this country for Islam, all right? We need teachers, We need people who can go out and do this dawah. Are you with me? And what I'm really saying to you is, you should have organizations where you have Islamic workers. Of course, I'm trying with my own Creamy Institute. I do have, mashallah, 60 staff, so I do have some workers, okay? It's not enough still. I have, mashallah, 60 on our payroll, all right? I'm not showing off. I'm just saying to you what I'm saying, what I'm preaching, I do. Yes, and I believe, and I try to spend every penny of our nearly £1 million on my staff rather than on physical buildings and assets. We need that. That is what we need. People working there, spreading the word of Allah, rather than alishan, beautiful, masajid, and we need those as well. But we really need workers. The point I wanted to make was, workers have to be looked after. Workers have to be paid. Workers have to be. Yes, the Christian missionaries, no matter how committed they are, they're usually from middle, upper class anyway, okay? They've got good inheritance coming their way soon. So they can go away into, Africa or Asia for 10 years and do the missionary work. Are you with it? But even they are supported. Even they are given stipends. They don't call it a wage, they call it a stipend, a wazifa, subhanAllah, all right? And because it is just to keep them going. And we need seriously to do that kind of work here, we desperately need. You just look around in your own town, and you will see what I'm saying, the poverty of Islamic workers, But anyway, this is Yusuf taking every opportunity to do dawah, okay? And again, this is the richness of this book, this in itself is an amazing example for people in dawah. Okay, look, this is how you do dawah. And then there is the method Yusuf uses is just amazing. What does he say to them? He says to them, so these people come to him and he says to them, hey, let me tell you something. And I'll do it briefly. I'm not going to take too long. Before your meal comes. So he's already saying to them, there is don't worry. I'm not going to delay you for your meal as well, okay? So anyway, there's a beautiful methodology of dawah. And this is what makes this so rich, okay? What else do we have? I'm just flicking through the book to encourage you to actually read it yourself. This will take you just over an hour or so to read, to be honest. But I hope you do a chapter at a time and reflect on it and benefit, because this will then serve as a prototype for other surahs for you. And you will be convinced, look, I can derive gems and pearls of wisdom from Allah's book. I can do it. I can do it, Are these not gems? Oh, no, you're looking for diamonds, aren't you, Zafar? those 100,000 pound diamonds. But I'm giving you millions of pounds worth of diamonds here. These are the real diamonds, to be honest, okay? So what are the enduring lessons of Surah Yusuf? Surah Yusuf is a late Meccan surah revealed sometime after Surah Hud. What is Surah Hud about? Surah Hud is actually about 7 prophets. It's the history of human disobedience. Stories, and again, it's the first time the Quran is telling the stories of the 7 prophets. Nuh alayhi salam, Hud alayhi salam, Salih alayhi salam, Shu'aib alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam. And it really, then Surah Hud is followed by Surah Yusuf. In fact, there's 6 prophets by whose name the surahs are named as well. And now it tells the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. It employs a commanding narrative. Are you with it? I'm telling you that even the way the Quran is arranged is masterly. So it's in brief, in Surah Hud, it's given you a overview of the life of 7 prophets. It's very powerfully done, about Hud and Saleh and all of them. Okay? And then, longer than Surah Hud is Surah Yusuf. All about, as though the Quran is saying, we have whetted your appetite to learn about a prophet, and now look at just one prophet, Yusuf. Just look at one of them. Eh? We could have talked about Shu'aib, we could have talked about Hud, all of them. Okay? Each one of them is amazing. Are you with it? So it tells the story of Yusuf alayhi salam followed. No, but the point I wanted to make was, even the arrangement of the Quran's 114 surahs is just amazing. And I looked at, there was a hadith in Ibn Kathir which talks where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the Quran is divided into 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. And I just wondered what is the meaning of that. So I looked at the 114th surah, and what do I find? Surah Al-Fatiha. The next is the 2 bright lamps, which is Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah, who called them Ash-Sham'an? Rasulullah, this is in a hadith. What's after that? 4 surahs, laws rooted in spiritual and social values. That is Surah An-Nisa, Al-Ma'idah, Al-An'am, and Al-Araf. That's what they are. What's after that? The struggle for truth and justice. What's that? Anfal and Tawbah. What is whole of Surah Al-Anfal about? Battle of? And what's Tawbah about? Battle of? Do you see? There's an arrangement. You thought, it's ad hoc. Auzubillah. Could Allah be ad hoc? Are you with it? Even the arrangement, we call this tawqifi, meaning it's divine. This is, and you can even see, how beautiful, and it goes on. The prophets struggle. Now these are the prophets. Surah Yunus, Surah Hud, Surah Yusuf. Are you with it? And then the prophets' spiritual journeys, beginning with Surah Al-Isra, and so on. Anyway, there's a beautiful, and I'm not claiming that this is a final, if people can help me, Talha, to see, that this could be up there or down here, or, that's okay, but it's an attempt to showcase even the content page of Quran is masterly done by the divine Jannah. And there's a structure, and our job is to discover how it is, isn't it, arrangements. As a scientist, one thing that we're very good at is classifying things, and you medics as well, you have to, you have to put things into clusters to be able to get them. Otherwise you don't get, when it's more than 5 or 7, you get confused, don't you? That is why, clustering and making themes is so important. And actually, we live in a very thematic age. Everything is thematic. Hospitals are thematic, aren't they? You have cardiology, you have internal medicine, you have your cancer, oncology, you have... Even your factories are now like that. Everything is thematic, isn't it? Subhanallah. And this is why, it's so important to think of the Quran being, it's got to be the master thematic at that, really, because it's Allah's design. Okay, so I was. Listen, I'm not going to read all of this, yeah, no? The lessons of patience and perseverance. The surah teaches life on earth is an extraordinary gift, full of tests and trials. You know, one of the biggest problems of the West and Christianity has been suffering. Evil, suffering, and how do you cope with it? Well, for us, these are never issues. We don't actually talk about in our Islamic, not in Hadith, neither in our other works. We don't actually talk about theodicy. It's called theodicy, okay? The theology of suffering. Oh, God, what do you mean theology of suffering? We Muslims are taught, hey, life runs in cycles. Right? Life is like cosine. It's got trials and tribulations. This is taqdeer, measured, precise. Precisely, taqdeer actually means precisely measured. All right, taqdeer is divinely, precisely measured. Yeah, now everything is mathematically calculated. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru be. Yeah, Allah said, even the sun and the moon do not move a second from here, from their orbits. All right, everything is, controlled and measured. And about the moon it says, وَالْقَمَرَ قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلًا. We have precisely measured its phases accurately, so accurately that today astronomers can tell you, when the hilal is, okay, when it's 8 degrees of elongation away from the sun and 3 or 4 degrees above the earth, then you will begin to see, and then of course there's a few more criteria which will create the crescent, we know it precisely, okay, and we can prove it with cameras, and everything is mathematically designed. How many engineers have we got here? Just put your hand up, please, if you're engineers or scientists. Okay, there's normally, in Muslim circles is 90%, our engineers or scientists, but here, mashallah, we've got lots of business people and all sorts of, good, that's good, IT perhaps, but IT is also what? Very mathematical, isn't it? It's binary, 0 and 1 is all you'll work on. So, subhanallah. The point is, Allah has calculated everything. I was talking about patience and perseverance. The surah teaches life on earth is an extraordinary gift. The message is patience and perseverance. Talking about the Christian. This is what happens when you play with your aqaid and you mutilate them. That is what the Christians did. Mutilated the tawheed, and they ended up with such a mess of Trinity. I was once, in a conference, we were traveling together with a very senior Christian theologian and a very high-ranking priest. And we were talking, and one day, he just put up his hands and said, I don't know when we got into this mess of Trinity. I said, MashaAllah, we know what he did. It was the conference of Nicaea, okay? But he got it. And that is the mess they create, okay? And of course, the mess of suffering, the mess of all this. We don't, alhamdulillah, have to deal with it. And this is one of the big reasons why they lose people from their faith, because you just can't explain suffering like that, without Allah, without this whole notion. Look, what are you talking about? Allah says and tells us again and again, and this is what the Quran constantly rubs in. Hey, life is all about suffering. Okay? What does it say? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَالنَّقْصٍ مِّنَ. We are going to. Here there is emphasis. We are indeed, there's 2 emphasis of lam, okay, and of the noon thaqila. We are certainly going to try you. Okay, we don't have to say that. Certainly, surely, we're going to try. Just say, when Allah speaks, that is enough. We are going to try you. You should imagine, Allah means it. Allah, it's not jokes, He means it, Anyway, so we are given this message from our childhood, and this is important, And this surah then reinforces this whole idea. Hey, Yaqub, what alternative have you got? Hey? We've taken your son away. What have you got other than to say, The first thing he says isn't, you wretched boys, you stupid boys, what have you done? He doesn't say that, does he? What does he say? He says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. So, patience is the best policy. What else? Wallahul musta'ani. Allah is my helper, Jana. Ala ma tasifun. What nonsense you are telling me. Are you with it? That is obviously a prophet of God who reacts in this way immediately. And of course, here is a model for us of patience. Who else is the model of patience in the Quran? Ayyub alayhi salam, yes. Allah describes him very beautifully. And there's a whole book called Job in the Bible. It's really fascinating, it really is fascinating, although it has a bit of kufr in it as well, sadly. But otherwise it's really worth reading, Marwan, if you want to read how to describe sorrow and sadness and grief and how to do condolences. It's just amazing. So Ayyub alayhi salam is now suffering badly. He's ill. He's infected. And everybody has abandoned him. And his 7 friends learn of this from somewhere far away. And they come to him. And, it says that when they come, for 3 days, they couldn't speak. Oh, it's very beautiful. They couldn't say a word. Just sat for 3 days. Do you get it? Well, in condolences, what is better way than silence? Isn't that powerful? Language, silence. Then they spoke, and each one of them said something amazing. And that's what's really amazing to read if you want to read about sabr. The Bible has been, we know it's been changed here and there, but not entirely. It still has truths in it. Yeah? It still has a lot of, and this is why our ulama used to use it for tafsir. What some people call Israeliyat, and now have been purging them, all the tafsir of that. But that's quite a narrow sort of understanding, sadly, of purification of tafsir literature. Anyway, so about patience and perseverance. This story is a beautiful, practical example. It doesn't define for you patience means to wait, all right, and let the time heal and all that. No, it doesn't. And to endure difficulties and not to complain. It doesn't tell you. It presents it to you in real way. Look at my Yaqub. Then look at my Yusuf. He's being patient throughout, isn't he? It's saying, this is what patience is. It's very powerful. I don't know how you would teach that to children, Tala, but it is, okay. This is real life. This is, where you are experiencing. Yusuf is experiencing. You should be able to express that experience and see it. The message is patience and perseverance give plentiful fruit. On the other hand, short-term instant gratification can be damaging. This is one of the problems with our young people, by using these gadgets, which are very fast, and if they are slightly slow and the internet is not good, Wi-Fi isn't good, what happens? They scream and they smash things, and it's not a good thing. This is where they're learning to become sabr, losing that sabr. The surah teaches us that life is a bumpy ride with ups and downs. So take trials, illnesses, setbacks in your stride, accept them and deal with them confidently. Okay? It doesn't say it in so many words. And that's the power of a short story. It presents you examples, and examples are far more powerful than words, aren't they? And that's what I think Yusuf remained faithful, loyal and devout to his Lord, no matter how difficult it was. He never lost faith in Allah when facing trials. The cosine curve of Yusuf's life has 3 peaks and 2 troughs as shown in the dry. Oh no, those are major peaks and troughs. But there would be dozens and dozens, and all of us could trace those. Can you trace those in your own life or not? I'm sure all of us have this, if you were to trace our lives, Haji Ramzan Sahab, from our childhood. And do you remember when you were 6 years old and you went to swimming lessons? And I remember certainly, and we managed to do the 20-meter. And next day, the head teacher, Mrs. Kelly, presented the certificate. Hey, you achieved this. And those are wins, aren't they? Those are those are peaks, in your life. And we have loads of those, in our life. Well, thousands of them, alhamdulillah. And that is what we need to remember as well, We should always be thankful to Allah. So when we come to here, again, فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ that is also, with difficulty is ease. With difficulty is ease. And, the Mufassirin say the rule is in Arabic that when something is repeated like this, it means it's a cyclical, it's a cycle. It's going to happen. You can't be always, on the trough. You have to go down as well. Okay, you have to, you can't be on the peak. You have to go down as well. And this is a natural, and this is what we need to teach our children. And this is a real, what is sabr? Real. This is what we need to say. There is no alternative whatsoever. So stop this nonsense of theodicy and trying to understand. Why does God make us suffer? Why does God? This is one of the biggest questions, they have, and they become kafir. First of all, we get this, hey, who are you? God is the controller. He's the creator. He's the master. You belong to him. He's your sustainer and cherisher. If he wants to do this, what's your problem? Yeah, what's your problem? Yes. Serious. I know it's easy to say that, but but the Quran is presenting real life examples. You've got to be ready for this. Okay, you have to be, and that is the message. And why are young people now, and young women and men, so impatient, so lonely, and mentally depressed? Is it 50% in UK that they say? I don't know whether they're saying this to raise their budget. Every department does this to raise their importance. They make up, figures. But they say 50% have mental problems. What are those mental problems? Seriously, this is it. This is the mental problem they have. Now they are actually beginning to realize, spirituality might play some part. We know not some part; it plays a major part in most of the mental. It's just a spectrum, isn't it? Mental illness is a big spectrum, isn't it? I think, to a large extent, or perhaps up to 90%, we could deal with it through our Islamic exercises of zikr, of friendship, of congregational prayer, of prayer, of wuzu, of Quran reading, of so many other, voluntary work and all sorts of things we have. We have, a huge tool in our toolkit of spiritual development, don't we? It's very rich, the Sheikh Dabbagh, this is a particular tool set that the Sheikh developed over, obviously he's taken it from his own great shuyukh, who've developed it over centuries. The Naqshbandis have similarly amazing, toolkit of how to deal with these problems and issues of life. So alhamdulillah, we have that. So that was just so navigating trials and triumphs. I have attempted to write an insightful commentary that describes the life and the works of Prophet Yusuf. It's a stunning drama revealing the human condition. It's about you. This is what we should also learn as a very important principle, that the Quran is about you. It's about who? نَزَّلْنَا الْكِتَابَ فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ. We sent down a book. فِيهِ. You are mentioning it, Aisha. You are mentioning it. You are mentioning it. Every one of us is mentioning it. Wow, this is an amazing concept. We reveal to you a book in which you are mentioned. How are you mentioned? Well, it's your attitude. You should read it. Allah is speaking to me, Musharraf. Allah is speaking to me. Allama Iqbal rahmatullah alayhi was a great philosopher and a great teacher and a wonderful poet. He says, my dad used to tell me, son, when you read the Quran, imagine and believe that Allah is speaking to you. You are spoken to. You are the mukhatab. Allah is the mukhatib. You are the mukhatib. You are the addressee. Oh my goodness, look at that. You become the addressee of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are you now? Are you going to be depressed and feel, oh, I'm useless, I'm worthless? What have I got, eh? He's got a Porsche, eh? He's got a BMW, and I've only got Skoda. Are you going to think in that way? Yeah, Allah is talking to me, eh? MashaAllah. Allah is speaking to me. Subhanallah. That raises your confidence, status, and of course that is, you are the Khalifatullah, aren't you? So I think it's really important to, read the Quran and develop this attitude. So in our Quran literacy project, Brother Talha, this is what we need to be thinking of. What are the basic usuls, principles that we have to get across in terms of character development, which make us good Quran readers, okay? And this is one attitude that we need to develop, okay? Allah is speaking to me. I am mentioned in the Quran. I am mentioned in the... There is a story about a wonderful tabi. I'm not going to tell you now. You can read it in one of my articles, actually. If anybody wants to do that, I can send it to you. But, he looks for himself being mentioned in the Quran, Jana. Okay? And then he comes to فَاعْتَرِفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. He says, and they then are those who acknowledge that, oh, I committed this sin. I committed that sin as well, Jana. Okay. Anyway, so that's your... we may have dreams, but Allah fulfills them in different ways. That's another amazing confidence, eh? Who is your backer? People are strong as strong as their backer is. Isn't that right? Any politician, they have backers, don't they? They must. How can they? They have backers, For example, Labour parties, some of their politicians would have the backing of who? The unions. Isn't that right? Of course, there's a price they have to pay for it, but they know they've got backers. The bigger the backer, if somebody's got a millionaire behind them, they will feel even more confident. Isn't that right? My God, who's your backer, eh? Oh, who's your backer? Can we believe Allah is our backer? Subhanallah. Yes, that is mutawakkal. That is what mutawakkaleen are. Those who put trust in Allah, rely on Allah, and say, Allah is mine. And they say, Hasbi Allah, Hasbi Allah. What do they say? Hasbi Allah. Allah is enough for me. Hasbun Allahu wa ni'mal wakil. They say, Allah is my best wakil. He's my, a wakil means doer, agent. Agent here is perhaps not the right word, but it conveys the idea that someone who will do things for you. Allah does things for, and this is what we need to have faith in. I have to make the attempts. I have to put the energy and effort into it, but its effectiveness is in hands of who? You can take ibuprofen for your pain. It might not have at all any impact because it's not having impact on your prostaglandins. What are those? Pain create. I've forgotten my pharmacologist. 40 years now. Prostaglandins. What are those? Those that create that pain. Anyway, whatever leads to pain, there are hormones and molecules that give you pain. Okay, and Allah can stop that formation of those molecules. For him, is it difficult? He doesn't have to use ibuprofen or paracetamol. He can do it without those molecules. Subhanallah. And so Allah is the one who has control of all these things. But it's having that faith and tawakkul. And this is what this surah is putting into us. Not in words like I'm doing, but through real actions, through real drama of life. Okay? When life gets tough, trials and unfair treatment at the hands of those from whom we least expect it, then don't complain. Be patient. Remember the patience of Yaqub and Yusuf. I then have key Arabic words. You can go through these things like sajideen, ta'weelul ahadith, ta'bir, and hasad and sabrun jameel, nafse ammara, al-aziz as well, and so on. This is just to show that, we want to maintain our vocabulary. And again, the idea in my Quran journal is we have similarly have a section there where I want you to note down 3, 4, 5 new words, or words that you don't know and you want to develop them as vocabulary, to build your own vocabulary. Are you with me, everybody? So this is just to, and of course, they are very powerful, in Arabic, and that's why we learn the Arabic terms. And I know, the ideal would be we should know the whole of it, but we don't. We don't have time. Yeah, it's so busy. Angrezi bhi padhi ki not badi gal hai. Yeah, honestly, we are so busy when it comes to reading translations or literature. I don't know why, and yet we are people of books, we are people of qalam and writing. So do please, get into this mood of reading and writing as well. The next is life hacks. These are small things that you do in your life, tips for doing the chores, domestic chores in your life. They are part of your system, and things like this, for example. Use stories to teach moral and spiritual lessons. We always do that, with our children. We're always using stories to tell them, moral lessons. Morality is very abstract. Generosity, okay? I could describe that in words, that to give freely when nobody asks you for it and you don't expect anything in return. That is quite complicated, 3-dimensional thing, a bit difficult to understand. But if I say to you, look at Yusuf alayhi salam, giving his time freely to those prisoners. He's not expecting anything from them because they can't do anything for him there, all right? He's not expecting anything from them, all right? But he's being generous to them. He's giving them his wisdom. He's giving them his time. He's giving them this hope. Are you with it? So yes, telling stories. Be careful who you share your story with. You learn that here, don't you? It's Yusuf sharing that story with his brothers. And so we learn this. You don't tell all your dreams to everybody, do you? I hope not. Okay? And you don't tell all your stories.
Yusuf was told in the beginning not to tell his brothers.
Yes.
Did he then tell his brothers?
This is interesting. Yes, he told his brothers, but when did he tell him? Could he have already told them before he came to his father? All right? It might have been that way as well, but it could have been the other way as well, He could have forgotten, all right? As I said, prophets are still naturally human beings as well, and he could have forgotten what his father had. And there was wisdom in that, forgetfulness as well of the prophet, okay? So, yeah, be careful who you tell. Do you see what I'm trying to hint here as a life hack? We learn from this. Again, I'm trying to show you how multidimensional this story is. You can, from every angle, you can learn so many things. Beware that not everyone may rejoice at your success or blessings. We know that, don't we? Not even your closest relatives sometimes. They're not joyous about your success, all right, sadly. There's jealousy. Resolve hidden conflicts in family dynamics. That's really interesting. Our father loves Yusuf and his brother more than us. Even though we are a large group, our father is obviously mistaken. What should they have done if they were clever and more upright? What should they have done, Jana? They should have clarified from their father, are you thinking of appointing him as the heir? Are you going to make him the future ruler over us? All right. What is it special about him? They should have spoken and communicated, don't you think? They didn't, okay? So when you have conflicts, we're really very poor at communication, very poor. Pakistanis, sorry, I keep on saying Pakistanis, racist. But that is the community I know. I'm amongst them. I'm one of them. So I can perhaps say it, we are very poor communicators, to be honest. Women are good, men are very bad at it. They don't like to talk. Naraz ho jange. I mean, nikki gal de par hai. Berukhi karange jai na, and never talk. They haven't told you what is displeasing them, what's upsetting them about you. And forever, they might actually forever break off. Brothers, forever, seriously. कोई गल नहीं दरम्यान दे कि नहीं? Very poor communicators, seriously. Women are slightly better, well, not slightly, much better, mashallah. You know, they love talking anyway, and they're good communicators, and they do a great job of trying to, you know, talk and try to actually, you know, have you noticed how many brothers don't talk to one another, but their wives are good friends? Both of, you know, their wives would be friends with each other, but the brothers don't. You know, as though they're, I don't know whether you have that in your Syrian culture, Dr. Basil. The men are weak, eh? Okay, well, let's conclude with that then. Men are weak, all right. But can you see this, you know, had they spoken and asked, what is it? You know, what are you thinking of? I would like to know, because, you know, Yusuf, Yaqub al-Islam had 2 wives, so 10 of them were from one wife, and the other 2, Binyamin and Yusuf, were from the other. So they were jealous. Okay, could it be that he could appoint them? And Yaqub al-Islam was very, very rich. Would he give them all the lands and everything and deprive us of that, possibly? And had they communicated, they will have heard, no, he wouldn't do injustice like that. And that's just an example, yeah. No? Expand your view beyond black and white, yeah. No? Not all actions you feel good. Well, this is important, isn't it? We're always told, you know, you shouldn't see things in black and white, except what Allah has called halal and haram, all right? Other than that, you shouldn't be, you know, in that way. You should be actually open, and you should see things through a spectrum, okay? And be diverse, you know, accept diversity. Diversity is one of the big. It's just amazing. You know, I've used that term diversity in many places in the Quran. Passages and Surah are about diversity, which is what? The Western world has just caught up with diversity. It's been in fashion for the last 30, 40 years, diversity, equality, you know, and diversity came in 1970s when they had the Race Relations Act. So that's when they began to talk about, well, later on, I said 10 years after that, about diversity. So it's quite a new thing. But for Quran, always diversity. You know, Allah has created this diversity. Every 9 billion human being has a unique genetic code, has a unique fingerprints, don't they? Subhanallah. Ya Rab. And we can't always protect our loved ones. You know, this surah gives us that amazing. People of Allah can overcome indecency and sexual temptations. So those of us, you know, who say, oh, it's not possible. No, it is. There is a young man in his prime, and he's able to do it. Okay, you can do it. Yeah. No? And you know, those are some fantastic life hacks. Yeah, and I hope you will read those and be able to elevate your well-being by practicing forgiveness. That's really interesting. Elevate your well-being. You know, improve your health here. That's what I'm saying, yeah, no? Don't go to Dr. Basil, yeah, no? All right? Just start forgiving, all right? Just start forgiving, and your blood pressure will come down, your heart rates will be fine, your cortisol levels will decrease, and you'll have a very healthy body, inshallah. Seriously. And there's evidence for this. There's research. A lot of research has been done on things like forgiveness, spending millions on it, particularly in states, you know, sponsored by a lot of Christian foundations. This work on a lot of these moral values, how they impact health. I've written a paper that I presented actually at a Notre Dame conference, university's conference, about how moral and spiritual values improve our health, and I reviewed that. So if anybody wants that, I can send that paper to you, inshallah. It's really fascinating. We know this, you know, Allah has given us this, you know, Allah created this amazing machinery, and with it He sent a guideline and manual. Look, this is how you troubleshoot it. This is how you keep it running well. You know, it's a manual that helps you to. We've forgotten this, you know. And Dr. Basil, this is what we should be doing, you know, nowadays, because people are so concerned about their health, and we should say to them, we have an amazing prescription. The Quran, the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Seriously, do you believe that? Well, the Quran itself claims, no? Ya ayyuhan nas, qad ja'atkum maw'izatun min rabbikum wa shifa'un lima fi sudur. Medicine for the four sicknesses of your heart and mind. Sudur is sicknesses of heart and mind. Subhanallah. It didn't say, oh, we're gonna. Well, it could cure your cancer as well, yeah. No? If all these good practices actually do have an impact on your psychology. Psychology then can defeat the most notorious kind of toxins and things that we make inside in our body, or when our DNA misbehaves. Well, it misbehaves. Why? Because of epigenetics, it's called. Epigenetics is the environment that is created in the cell. That actually determines which genes are switched on and off, aren't they? So if you're going to be jealous all the time, and why has he got this? Why has she got that? They've got a bigger house, they've got this. And if you're in that mood all the time, your epigenetics, your cells are in a really stressed state, okay? So when they're in that stressed state, they're going to switch on some nasty things, all right? And when those nasty genes come about, you get cancer. Seriously, that's how, epigenetics. But that epigenetics is in your control. If only you had the power of mind. Seriously. You used to think, with their power, mind power, they can change things. Yes, you can. It requires a lot of mind power, a lot of focusing and a lot of, it is actually quite intensive and requires a lot of hard work. And those people who've been able to do that, are able to control, even if they're non-Muslims, actually, they can do that. And these yogis do it, seriously, you could change the heart rate, but it requires a lot of exercises and abilities, and we don't have time for that. We're so busy. Let's get on with the next topic, okay? We're not. Anyway, how are we doing for time? Oh, mashallah. Oh, 1:45.
Are we praying Zohar tomorrow?
Zohar, sorry, I should have clarified. Zohar has been forwarded just for this group for 2 o'clock.
Oh, my. Oh, God. I'm just getting warmed to this story, and you tell me we've got to stop it. Okay, a symbolic reading, and you've got it. This is the next chapter 5, symbolic reading. Here we look at the story, symbolism and personification in literature. Best writers always use symbols and, personifications. This is an effective device for energizing and adding emotions to writing. It's a figurative way. Anyway, what am I reading this for? You're all going to have this, aren't you? So you can read it yourself. Okay, I'll leave it there, and I'm going to gallop through my PowerPoint instead. But I hope I've given you. Will you read it? I have to get this pledge from you. Seriously. Listen. If you are convinced that this surah is just amazing, it is Ahsan al-Qasas, and from different dimensions, I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it. It does work. Then, inshallah, you will do same with other surahs. And they're all equally powerful, miraculous, and effective. The other point was understanding its moral and social and spiritual lessons. The final thing was this. This is what we all want. Realization. What's another word for realization? The Sufis used another word, ma'rifah. Ma'rifah. Recognition, understanding, gnosis. It's when you realize, that Allah has control over all my situations. That is now mutawakkil. You are now truly mutawakkil. You now have put trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're amongst the mutawakkileen. All right? And that is the whole thing. If you have that, you will have sabr, you will have all those, you will have haya, all those things will follow, inshallah. I've just been through those episodes, some of them, not all of them. You can go through them yourselves, okay? What makes it so beautiful It's the little details in every episode. And, this is what people miss. I say, I know Surah Yusuf, and that Yusuf and Zulaikha and, God, no. Read the details. The beauty is in the details of it. And I've just given you an example there, okay? When he says to his son, you're going to be a problem solver. You are going to be a problem solver. And when the brothers threw him in the well, what does Allah say to him? One day you will tell them of this conspiracy. Can you see? Yusuf you're going to be coming out of this fine. Not only fine, but on top of it, young man. Okay? Can you see the beauty of that little, yes. There are 12 characters. You can. So what are the criteria for telling a high standard story? What are they? Well, first, I asked ChatGPT actually this question, and this is answer from it. Outstanding literary merit. And it gave a whole page of what it means by outstanding literary merit. I've summarized it in stylistic excellence. Stylistic is balagha, effective communication, impactful communication, and rhetorical voices, words. Oh, it's just amazing, to read some of those beautiful writers there. It's got to have that outstanding literary merit, of course. But in addition to that, it's got to have universal themes that resonate across cultures and eras. Okay? With Surah Yusuf, my goodness, isn't jealousy there in your families today? Isn't behayai there today? And how do you deal with that? All those are universal themes. Depth of human insight. Wow. These little gems that come out, bring out human positive, insights, it exerts lasting impact. Well, I don't know if there's any language, Muslim language, that won't have story about Yaqub. Well, we certainly have it in Punjabi, and Punjabi has got, I think, 50 books, that's all. That's the treasury of, might be a bit more than that now. But even that language has got a story. Sindhi has it. Pashto has stories of Yusuf alayhi salam. I'm sure it's in every language, and every imam talks about it. Everyone talks about it. So what is if you didn't believe what I'm saying about outstanding Hira, renowned in Arabic for its flowing rhythmic style and shortness, employs a high level of rhetorical beauty. Who says that? The assonance in it, the alliterations. Who says that? Well, these are the Mufassirin, who've said it weaves dialogue, narration, and moral commentary seamlessly. It's just amazing. In those short passages and episodes, you get a narration. You get the whole sense of the story, but you get the commentary with it. You get a dialogue as well. It's all seamless, and that is what makes it absolutely, amazing, to be honest. The stylistics of it is just, it foregoes the extensive setting of, which normally people do in novels. It does it very succinctly, Oh, come on, these are universal themes, aren't they? There's jealousy, there's betrayal. You don't expect your brothers to kill you or throw you in a well, do you? False accusations. It happens to everybody. Is there anybody here who's not had false accusations? Okay? How do you deal with that? All right? Moral fortitude. This is the moral virtues of haya and kindness, etc. Forgiveness and reconciliation. How Yusuf forgives is an amazing way he forgives. It is so impactful. Again, it doesn't tell you what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not to take revenge from the one who offends you or hurts you. No, it doesn't do that. It shows you, here is Yusuf, there's the 10 brothers who plotted to kill him and to do all that to him and made him go through all those horrific trials. What does he say to them? La tasriba alaykum al-yawm. No blame on you. He doesn't say to them, I forgive you. Oh, that would be too harsh. It would be. He says, no blame on you, no blame on you. Oh, it's so powerful, isn't it? It's being illustrated. Hey, you wretched guys, Do you remember what you did to me? That's us, But Yusuf, love. And Rasulullah was so impressed with this that he used exactly this term. when he was, when the Makkans who had been plotting to kill him for 23 years, bloodthirsty enemies standing in front of him. And he says to them, what do you think I should do? And he himself says, "La tasriba alaykum al-yawm." I'm going to say what Yusuf said. I don't want to even talk about, even remember. I don't want to remember those things. Oh, this is pure. But the person who is miserly, the person who hasn't got this, will have all those nasty things whizzing around in his head. Hey, they plotted, they threw me in well, they beat me up, they did this to me, they did that to me. And that's some psychologists, nutters, say that, oh, you should remember all those things and then get rid of them. No, we don't. We wipe them away. We are told you should wipe those away. Don't remember grudges. Don't remember grudges. Don't carry those rotten potatoes in your bag. Anyway, trust in divine. That is that's where Allahu ghalibun ala amrik. Allah is, dominant over. He's in control of your situation. So don't worry. Will Allah want bad for you? He's al-bar. He always wants goodness. All right? The depth of human insights, this probes human psychology in an amazing way. I'm not a psychologist, but I can see some of these things there. Offers a serious but subtle perspective on moral choices. How do we make the right choice? It gives you example after example of all those moral values which, Aristotle would have taught in his Nicomedean ethics in words which you don't understand. You need a philosophy degree to understand them. But Surah Yusuf teaches them in, subhanallah. A child can understand these stories, can't they? 9, 10-year-old. Isn't that right? And we should be able to. This is what I said to you, makes it just miraculous, And it's beyond mere morality tale. The English, so the Christians are very good at writing some of these morality tales. Chaucer's, what was Chaucer's Tales of Canterbury, and then the Pilgrim's Progress. They're really good at telling those moral stories. Morality tales. But Surah Yusuf is something else. Why don't you read that, Chaucer's Tales of Canterbury. Read them. Honestly. They're good. They're very interesting. But seriously, will somebody do that? Comparison? Seriously, do it. Compare, Chaucer's tales. They are supposed to be, he did it for that purpose, to teach moral and spiritual. And say, I'll take one episode of Surah Yusuf and compare, and you see the difference. This merges the narrative, the moral lessons, the spiritual. It's something different here. You can't do it. No human can do that. And that is what I want you to be convinced. Wow, this is something amazing. Lasting impact. It's got an enduring impact on our cultures. Modern literary critics present Surah Yusuf as an exemplary Quranic narrative. There's people who've done PhDs on it, actually. One of my friends at Nottingham University, Dr. Ahmed Melliberry, he did a PhD about 25 years ago, but in it he had a whole chapter on the rhetoric of the Surah Yusuf. Its dramatic unity, just amazing. Okay? Strong narrative voice, shapes the story. It's pointed in places, poignant elsewhere, but always relevant. It's Allah's voice, authoritative, commanding, and precise. Not a single word is out of place. Okay? It's not misplaced. It's amazing. Anyway, I finally, there's a lot of pop in it, a lot of hyperboles, metaphors, comparisons, and all that. But I want to share something with you. Page 66, if you can open that, please. On page 66, I talk about the ring structure of surahs. Well, in that chapter, I talk about how what is the ring structure. It's a nice, remember, this is not the final kind of theories are always, and hypotheses are always, developing, and they're ideas. They're not perfect, but it's a good way of looking at some surahs, and you begin to see this ring structure. What is this ring structure? I describe it in more detail in my book called Keys to Understanding Quran, but I explain it in few pages here. But look at this. If you look at this, everybody, you've got first Yusuf's amazing dream. What's right at the end of the story? What is it? Okay. Next is what? The brothers hatcher. You thought they got away with it, eh? No. What happens? The great? They seek forgiveness. What's three? Yusuf's blood-stained shirt. What's third from the end? The miracle of that fragrant shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam, eh? What's then? Yusuf is sold as a slave. Yaqub loses his one son, who he loved. In the other side, Benjamin is, Yaqub loses him as well, okay? Number 5 is Zulaikha tempts Yusuf. And in the other part, from the other side, is where Zulaikha tells the king that she was the misbehaved lady. All right, she's the one who misbehaved. Yusuf wrongly imprisoned. On the other side, Yusuf is exonerated. You know, this is another miracle. The king says, bring this man who's interpreted my dream. And Yusuf says, no, I am not coming out of the prison until my name is cleared. Wow. You know, who wouldn't like to jump out of a dungeon? And when he's summoned by the king. But Yusuf was intelligent. Yusuf was man of Allah. He said, no, if I go there now, I go as a mujrim. I go as a guilty person. I've got a charge against me. First, clear my name. Allahu Akbar. Clear my name. So when he walks in, finally, with his name cleared and head held high, walking tall, the king is already impressed with him anyway. And anyway, that's can you see that? You know, beautiful. Yusuf's advice to the prisoners. And then we have, you know, there is this ring structure. And this is well known. If you can read about it. It's not it's a theory presented by Professor Mary Douglas Chan long ago. And some Muslim scholars, like people like Farin Raymond, has done a lot of work on it. He did his PhD actually on the structure of Surah Al-Ma'idah, ring structure, and I've done it for many surahs, and it's just amazing. It really is amazing, yeah, no? Finally, can I have a few more minutes to just talk about, this is final, all right? This is the motif of the, you know, in the symbolic reading, it's really interesting to do a symbolic reading. Symbolic reading means, you know, you look at things as though they are symbols, which they are. Good writers always use symbols, you know, and motifs. So what is a motif there, no? MashaAllah, you're all men, so you don't have motifs on your shirts. But our sisters, MashaAllah, wear clothes which have got lots of patterns. And there's always one pattern that runs through it, doesn't it? It connects the whole thing and makes it look symmetrical and beautiful. That pattern, recurring pattern, is called a motif in clothes or in design. But in good writing, if you can have a motif, that is something that you keep repeating. It sort of weaves through the whole story, okay? And it gels the story together. That's called a motif. Only best writers can do that, you know, really best writers. And in Surah Yusuf, you see lots of these, yeah, no? So one of them is, as I say, is the motif of shirt. So this is Professor Sarah Tilley, who is a professor of Quranic studies in the University of Florida. She did an amazing tafsir of Surah Al-Hijr. She's an Algerian scholar. She did an amazing, in which she's talking about the motif of stone. And of course, Al-Hijr means the rock as well. Anyway, it took me, honestly, this is real. It's about 40, 50 page long paper. It took me nearly 2 weeks to get my head around what it means. It's so complicated. It really is. I've summarized it. So, and I took this little part from it, where she's talking about the motif and about the motif of the shirt in Surah Yusuf. Here I have summarized her thoughts. Motif is a recurring idea in literature. It blends ideas, themes, and diverse concepts into one, making a pattern. It's a symbol or an image that comes back again and again. Okay, so the motif directs the reader's attention to the central theme and engages them on an intuitive level. Okay, That's a very deep, people in stylistics and who are in literature understand this. It's a device for creating depth in writing. So these are master writers, not your ordinary writers. So Professor Tilly says, Neil Robinson has pointed out the recurring motif of the shirt in Surah Yusuf and how it has unifying effect on the plot, thereby highlighting the structuring function of this motif. The first mention of it is when brothers present Yaqub Yusuf's torn and tattered shirt, blood-stained shirt. Second is when Zulaikha tears Yusuf's shirt from the back. And third time when the brothers bring the fragrant whole shirt to Yaqub alayhi salam. The Quran links the shirt with, the Quran links the shirt with disclosure of the truth as opposed to its concealment. So in all those three incidences, what he was seeing is the brothers was telling a lie. The shirt was saying, you are liars. I'm not even torn. You put this blood stain on it. And Yaqub, of course, could tell that. What a clever wolf who took my son out of the shirt. Eh? So the shirt is saying, you liars. You didn't even make up the lie properly. You don't know how to lie even. Okay? When Zulaikha says, he attacked me, and the shirt is torn from the back, the shirt is saying, well, how could that be? You are the one who was chasing him. All right? So, and when the brothers were saying to Yaqub alayhi salam, they were arguing with him, look, Yusuf is gone, he's dead. What are you talking about? The shirt comes then. The fragrant shirt comes then. And it puts it over his face. So they were saying he's dead. And they say, well, this is from Yusuf. Are you with it? So this is a motif, Jana, that is, again, these are very fine points. They require a lot, the mind of these people, Jana. The shirt is conveying a truthful message despite attempts to ascribe false ones on it. The shirt not only echoes Yusuf's character, particularly his virtue as an honest man. Can you see that? That's another. It reflects this man, Jana, truthful always. And it says that Griffenhagen, one of the German's expert, but it also illustrates Allah's attribute as Ghalib, as Allah's attribute of Ghalib, and also Latif, the subtle, okay, which the surah highlights, almost in defiance of humans and in obedience to Allah alone. The shirt resists attempts to manipulate it, all right? Lots of attempts, but it resisted them, Its use, and in subtle, though decisive ways, it discloses lies and validates the truth. And you can read this, it's a very beautiful, and there are many other, motifs. I would, you can read it yourself, but there is also something, I want those of you who are teachers, and this is what Sheikh Ahmed Dabbagh wants most of you to be ustaz, isn't he? Teachers, and our ustaz Talha, mashallah, is doing some wonderful work. He runs his own school very successfully, mashallah. I've been to it, very good quality school. And he's done questions for every page of the Majestic Quran, all right? And I've also done a teacher's guide for every page of the Quran, and I've handed it over to him to merge his quizzes and my ideas so we can have a teacher's guide page by page for those who want to study the Quran more deeper, So inshallah, Aziz, that's so the point I wanted to make there was the Shaykh wants you all to be ustaz, and teach others and to spread the message. But to do that, we have to learn. We have to do a lot of reading. Reading is crucial, and writing is even more therapeutic, and will help you to straighten your ideas. You can always tell a speaker whether he wrote and organized his talk or not, by the way he speaks. He gets something from the right, then something from the left, something from there, and he's just making it's a patchwork. That is, well, sometimes you can do that, if you're really sharp, and you get barakah from audience. If you've got, wonderful people, you learn things. But a good teacher prepares his lesson, doesn't he? You know, I expected my teachers when I was a head teacher actually to do a lesson plan. We used to have a book they had to show. Where's your lesson plan, please? I want to see the lesson plan for every of the 5 lessons you do in a day. Yes, and we need to, for that you need to write, yeah. So I hope, inshallah, you become, you know, wonderful teachers and servants and workers of Islam. Workers, we are workers of Allah, inshallah. And thank you very much, everybody. Sorry to take so long, Jazakallah khair. You know, I hope you will all take this book, Jana. Okay, and you can help this organization that printed it if you want to. Go on their website and give them whatever you wish. And you know, this is the a page for every day, and it is what it says. A page for, okay, day 87, day 88, day 89, and so on. And the idea is really to condition. I know that's a bad word in education. You don't condition people. Of course we do. That's what they do. They are conditioning us to be people of belly and of eating, of gratification, of pleasure, aren't they? That's they're conditioning us. Of course, we have to condition ourselves to read our children. You know, so I hope this becomes a, you know, something which you get your children. Okay, yeah, come on, you've got to do 1 page. It only takes 3 or 4 minutes. Once they're hooked on it, they will love it. All right. So do please, you know, this is a innovation. Which Allah forgive me for, I hope, and you as well. You know, but we need to. It's very beautiful. Okay, do please, you know, give it as an Eid gift to all your family. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Musharraf. You know, that was very inspiring and insightful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and preserve intellectual giants like Dr. Musharraf amongst our communities. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. And inshallah, we look forward to inviting yourself again. And hopefully this time we give more time. Obviously with this current Itikaf schedule, we have an intensive schedule planned and time doesn't permit. I would like to have a break now for Zuhr Salah. If we can regroup in 5 minutes, just giving this 5 minutes for you to go and freshen up. If anybody needs to freshen up and put these chairs away. And then after Zuhr, I'll tell you about the next part of the schedule, inshallah. So let's regroup in 5 minutes.